Okay, I'm excited about this video because I'm going to jump into a brand new topic, a brand new category of things that are called verb complements or verbal complements. And right off the bat, these are not compliments like, hey, verb, you look really great today. Not complimenting the verb in the sense of making the verb feel, saying something nice about the verb or anybody, but rather it means to compliment as in, this color really complements that color. It matches it well. It complements it. So it's an E, not an I. Unfortunately, those two words sound exactly the same in English, and it can be confusing. But now, English does not exactly have, does not have verb complements. It's a category that is in Chinese and not in English, and so it's a brand new category, and that's what's kind of fun. You're actually learning something that is not found in English in the same way. Let me give you a quote from All Set Learning. A complement is a word or phrase following a verb, or sometimes an adjective, that provides additional meaning to the verb phrase. Complements are not the same as objects and can be as short as one character or practically as long as a sentence. Complements provide additional information associated with verbs such as degree, result, direction, or possibility, and are extremely common. Compliments are not a form of flattery. Those are compliments. They're much more versatile than that. All Set Learning. Okay, so verbal complements come after the verb or sometimes the adjectival predicate, and they add additional meaning to the verb or the adjective. There is no exact equivalent in English, though I think there are a bit similar to what is something in English grammar called phrasal verbs. So what's a phrasal verb? A phrasal verb, think of the verb stand, right? So you have stand, but then you can add a whole bunch of other words to stand to influence and change the meaning. You can have stand up. So stand is different from stand up, right? You can have stand down, like if you're, stand down. We could have stand around, just doing nothing, just standing around. We can have stand by, that means to wait. We can have stand back, which means get out of the way. So it's a verb. A phrasal verb is a verb with another thing attached to it that it influences the meaning. And actually, you have to kind of learn in both phrasal verbs in English and complements in Chinese. You have to learn them. They're idiomatic, meaning you can't always know what they mean just by looking at the combination of words. Like stand down. How would you know that it means to back off? There's back off as another example of a phrasal verb. How would you know that means that unless you actually memorize the phrase stand down as its own thing? You don't get it by adding up stand and down together and then knowing what it means. So these are like units of meaning. So some of the Chinese complements are like that too. Some of them are more obvious what they mean, and some of them have a little bit more of you kind of have to learn it as a unit. So complements are super common in Chinese, and the first one we're going to talk about is degree complements. So what are degree complements? It's a very common pattern, and what it does, I'll tell you what it does, and then I'll tell you the formula for it. It expresses how a verb happened or assesses its quality. So talking about how it happened or whether it happened well or not well, and then it could express to what extent or degree an adjective is true. So that's why we're called degree complements. It talks about the degree of the adjective. It influences kind of like the how it happened, how well it happened, assessing its quality, and so forth. So it's a subject, the basic pattern. Of course, you can have adverbs thrown in here and stuff like that. But the basic pattern is subject, verb, this little thing, duh. And then it's a new character for you probably, duh, plus some kind of description. And that description is going to, describe the verb and add additional information to that verb about its degree. So that's how it works. We have this little duh. Now this is a different duh. It's a different character from the duh that's like, 我的东西, my things, or 昨天吃的饭, the food that we ate yesterday. That duh is a different thing, but it's similar in the sense that it has like a grammatical function that isn't like if you were to translate this sentence into English, "the" is not going to get a translated value because it's just there to indicate grammar, not to, it doesn't have, it's not going to translate like, like a noun would. All right, so that's how it works. Let me give you some examples. 你说的很好. So you speak. How do you speak? To what degree or whatever? How do you speak? 很好. So this means you speak well. This is how you can compliment someone's speaking. If they say, they're talking in English and you're like, oh, your English is great. You can say, you speak well. 你说的很好. This is from All Set Learning. This is 我吃的太饱了. 我吃的,我吃 means I eat. So that's the, the subject verb. Then we have our 的. And then we have description, 太饱了, meaning super full, extremely full. And so I ate, how did I eat? With the result or the degree of being super full. So 我吃的太饱了, I'm so full. I want to point out that this construction, this degree complement, is not going to have la in it. It's not making the statement that something was completed. It's talking about how something was completed, assessing its quality. So it's not like a did it happen or did it not. It's talking about how it happened. But this la is here because of the tai phrase. It's a part of this phrase meaning extremely full. So that la does not mean that this thing happened. It means that it's just part of that tai something la phrase. And I wanted to point that out. Here, this one, it has the grammar of degree complement, sort of. It's kind of its own unique thing. I just wanted to point this out. This is a way to say extremely adjective. So 好吃的很. So we have 好吃的很. And this is actually more 好吃 than 很好吃. 很好吃 is just kind of like basic, very good, very tasty. But 好吃的很 is like extremely tasty. 好吃的很. So this has like the same 的 as a degree complement. And I think it kind of falls in the category, but 很 is like not exactly the normal description. It's kind of like, it's just its own set phrase. So I wanted to point that out. Okay, so now you might be like anxiously asking the question. This is a joke. You might be anxiously asking the question, what do you do when there's an object in the sentence? Because here we have you speak very well, but it doesn't, like, what if I want to say you speak Chinese very well? Where does the object go? That's an excellent question. And I want to tell you, you can't separate this complement from the verb other than the da. It's going to be verb, da, complement. So where do I put the Chinese in there? The way you do it is you have to kind of break up the sentence a little bit. There are actually 3 ways to do it. I'm sorry. But this is like worth investing your time in because in learning this, because it's just so much a part of how Chinese works. If you mess it up, it'll sound pretty awkward. Just because of the way these degree complements work, you have to have the verb and the complement like together as a unit. All right. When it's degree complements, that's not necessarily true of other complements. 你说, here's one way. It's like you basically say, you kind of say the verb twice. You say 你说中文, you speak Chinese, 说得很好. So you kind of repeat the 说, so that you can so now we have a verb and its object, and then we say the verb and its complement, and they can be like side by side. 你说中文, 说得很好. That's the one way to say it. The other way is the same as that, but you kind of omit the 说. Well, not kind of, you do. Omit the 说, and so it's 你中文说得很好. So it's a little bit simpler. This is a little fuller. This is a little bit simpler. 你中文说得很好. And then finally, this is similar to that, you can put a 的 between 你 and 中文. So 你的中文, your Chinese, 说得很好. 你的中文说得很好. So those are the 3 different ways to add in an object. I encourage you I don't know if I put this in the description or not, but I think it would be a great idea if you took a basic sentence like this, maybe a different one just to make it a little bit different, make sure the verb and object is different, and then actually write out these 3 different ways to put an object in there to kind of get it in your mind and work it out. Okay, those are degree complements. Let me see if there's anything else to say in my notes. I don't think so. And in the next video, we're going to look at one or two examples of a potential complement. So see you in a moment. All right, in this clip, we're going to talk about a potential complement. Later on in HSK 3, we actually talk about potential complements in full. But here I'm just going to talk about one kind of potential complement that means to understand. And some of the pieces that you need to understand to get this are there are 4 characters that, or 4 words you need to know. Kan, you should know that. It means to see. Ting, that means to hear. Dǒng means to understand. And míngbai also means to understand. So the I'll point something out here. Okay, so the formula is the structure is subject, if there is a subject, plus verb, and the verb here is going to be kan or ting. I didn't point that out. I could have just written kan or ting in place there. So kan or ting, to see or hear, depending on if we're talking about seeing something or hearing something. Then it's going to be de. That's the same de that we talked about in the degree complement, or a bu. So if we're saying can understand, we're saying de. If we're saying cannot understand, we're saying bu. And then either dǒng or míngbai. Both mean understand. They're interchangeable in this structure. So what we're saying here is I can understand. That's what a potential complement is. It means to be able to, or have a possibility for, have the ability for something or not. That's why it's potential. It's either can happen or cannot happen. So I can understand, or whatever the subject is, someone can understand or cannot understand. The kind of understanding has to do with whether it's seeing or hearing. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a very common one. If you've been around China at all, you've probably heard this and said this. 我听不懂. So that means I cannot understand. 我听不懂. I hear, not understand. Or what it literally means is I am hearing but unable to understand. 我听不懂. 不好意思. 不好意思 means excuse me or I'm sorry, something like that. 我听不懂. So what this means is I cannot understand, which I've heard a lot of foreigners use this when they mean to say I am not understanding. I did not understand. And the difference is slight enough that it usually doesn't matter. But if you want to say I did not understand, it would be 我没听懂. There's no bu in there. 我没, I did not, 听懂, I did not understand. That's a slightly different kind of complement. It's called a result complement. We'll talk about it in the future. But so this is 我听不懂, I cannot understand, 不好意思. Here we have 我看不懂这些字. Okay, 这些字 means these characters. 我看不懂 means I see, but I'm unable to understand. The thing that's kind of interesting about these phrases is if we were to translate them into English, we wouldn't even say listen or see. We would just say I don't understand, I'm sorry, or I don't understand these characters, or I can't read. Maybe I can't read these characters. But in Chinese, this phrase has ting and kan in it, which gives us more information, which is kind of fun. 我看不懂这些字. I do not understand these. I cannot understand these characters. Okay, and let me give you a slightly more complex sentence, which is kind of fun. There's a lot going on in this sentence. It's 我听得明白你说的话. 你说得很清楚. Now, if you can understand every word in this, kudos to you. I doubt you can, but let me tell you some of the parts. 我听得明白. So that from the structure, you should know that means I hear and am able to understand.